Mukham karoti vachanam bangam langyate girim yatkrupatamam vande Shri Gurudinataranam Paramanandam Madhavam. Thank you for joining. So we will resume our discussion from the Canto 4, Chapter 30, Activities of Pracheta, verse 32. So this is the last verse in the prayers by the Prachetas. So there are 11 verses, beginning from verse 22. And if you remember, the Prachetas started with the glorification of the Lord, the qualities that he has, how he interacts with the material world, how he is the origin of everything, how he is the supreme witness. Then they glorified the Lord's mercy in terms of his appearing as the Archavigraha, as compassion for those who are not pure enough to get his personal association, but desire his association. And then they come to the part where they're setting the stage to ask the benedictions. So they say, as Paramatma, you already know all our desires, and you know that our desire is your satisfaction. So they are now in verse 32, where they are now going to be concluding their prayers, and then from the next verse they will start asking for the benedictions. So verse 32. Yeah. Paramatma Prabhu, do you think you can read the translations?
Are you asking? I haven't gotten the text as yet.
Okay, I read the Sanskrit. So we are at Canto 4, Chapter 30, verse 32. Parijate anjasalabde sarango nyanna sevate padangri moolam asadya sakshat kim rinimahi.
I don't have the text. I can't find it in my iPad as yet.
Okay, no worries. Prem Kishore Prabhu, can you go ahead and... Okay, I think Prabhu is having mic problems. Sarang Prabhu?
Dear Lord, when the bee approached the celestial tree called the Parijata, it is certainly does not leave the tree because there is no need for such action. Similarly, when we have approached your lotus feet and taken shelter of them, what further benediction may we ask of you?
So we see that it appears that they are speaking in riddles. When the Lord had asked them to seek a benediction, then in verse 29 they had said that you are the super soul, you know our desires, so what is the need for us to ask? Then in the very next verse, in verse 30, they actually went ahead and did ask. They said that the benediction they asked was that may you always be pleased upon us, and may we always be fixed in the ultimate goal of life, which is devotional service. Right? Then in the next verse, in 31, they had said that any benediction that we should ask should be similar in quality to the Lord. Right? So they said the Lord is Ananta, unlimited, or spiritual in nature. So the benediction that we should ask should also be of a similar nature. It's like when you go to if you go to a goldsmith, then you'll ask for gold. If you go to a person who's doing business in iron, you'll ask for iron. If you go to a person who is cultivating the farm, you will ask crops. So they are saying we are now coming to you who is unlimited. So the reasonable benediction we should ask you is something that is similar in quality, which is unlimited. Now in this verse, they seem to be moving in a different direction. They say that there is actually no need for any benedictions since we have already taken shelter of you. Right? They are saying that when the bee approaches the parijata, it does not leave the tree. Similarly, we approach the lotus feet. So what further benedictions we might ask? Right? So they seem to be going a little bit in a zigzag way. Srila Prabhupada says that that when a devotee is actually engaged in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord, his engagement in itself is so perfect that there is no need to ask for any further benedictions. But again, after having said that, we will see in the subsequent verses that the prachetas will ask for further specific benedictions. So we know there is no duplicity in the prachetas. So the way that we can understand them making these statements that don't seem to be reconciling, they're saying they don't need to ask for a benediction, then they are asking for a benediction, then they again say the quality of the benediction should be like you, then they say that we have already taken shelter of you, then they will ask for a benediction. So essentially what they are trying to say is that our only desire is to make you happy. Now, that is automatically delivered to those who take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. So, whether that is given automatically by the Lord, or whether that is given by them asking for it, it's the same. Right? Like when a child is hungry, then the mother will feed the child. But the child might still say, give me food, give me food. So there's no duplicity in the child. It knows the mother will feed it, but it might still ask that give me food because of it's simply dependence on the mother. So the prachetas are asking for only one thing, which is that we want to please you, O Lord. They also know that devotees are automatically given that benediction, which is why they are saying we don't have to ask for it. You already know it. It's your nature. But then also they are asking for it. One is because the Lord asked them to do so, and the second is for their own purification. Okay, so let's move on to verse 33. Yavate mayaya sprishta brahmam miha karmavi tavad bhavad prasangana sangashyanno bhave bhave.
Dear Lord, as long as we have to remain within the material world due to our material contamination and wander from one type of body to another and from one planet to another, we pray that we may associate with those who are engaged in discussing your pastimes. We pray for this benediction life after life in different bodily forms and on different planets.
So in 10 verses, from 33 to 42, we will see that the prachetas will ask for a series of benedictions. The first that they ask is Krishna Katha in Vaishnava Sangha. Right? So if you note, they are not asking for liberation, because they say that life after life in different bodily forms on different planets. And so they're saying that whether we have to take birth in different species, in different planets, we don't care. We don't care about, because liberation is essentially the cessation of this cycle of transmigration. So we don't really care about it. The only thing that we ask is Vaishnava Sangha and Krishna Katha. So if you remember when the Pracheta had said that the benediction that we should ask should be unlimited, like you, Prabhupada had mentioned these two things. Because just like the Lord is unlimited, Krishna Katha is also unlimited. Just like the Lord is unlimited in terms of his enjoying potency, that is the nature of the Vaishnava Sangha. Now, one may wonder, why are they not specifically asking for bhakti or mukti? So, mukti one can understand, because devotees in general, they don't care about mukti. But why are they not specifically asking for bhakti? And the reason is that the Prachetas are advanced enough to understand that Krishna Katha in Vaishnava Sangha is automatically going to create bhakti. Now they're being humble over here. They're already advanced devotees. But what they're saying is that even if a person does not have bhakti, he does not have to ask for it separately. Krishna Katha in Vaishnava Sangha is automatically going to, is the fertile ground on which the Bhakti Lata Beach germinates and flourishes. And this is also the focus of the Rudra Gita. So in the chapter 24, verses 58 and 59, Lord Shiva, he prays that I therefore beg your Lordship to bless me by the association of your devotees. And later he says that your real benediction will be to allow me to associate with such devotees. One who is favored by Bhakti Devi does not become bewildered by the external energy, which is just like a dark well. Right? So they are staying true to the instructions that they have received and internalized. Right? In Rudra Gita, they were praying, Lord Shiva gave them this instruction, and they were praying that give us Vaishnava Sangha. And by such Vaishnava Sangha, Bhakti Devi will favor such a person. And that person is not going to get bewildered. So that is what they are asking. Srila Prabhupada writes a very brilliant purport outlining what a devotee should not ask from the Lord. It's practical for practicing devotees. He says that the devotee should not pray for either personal or impersonal liberation. Right? Anibilashita shunyam, jnana karma jnana. So impersonal, they should never ask, but not even for personal. He should not even ask for Vaikuntha. Not because of arrogance, but because of humility. The devotee should not think that all this is automatically available to me, so I don't even have to ask for it. I'm better than all these forms of liberation. But because of real humility, when a devotee reaches this stage, they don't really consider themselves fit to go to Vaikuntha. So we see that the Prachetas over here, they consider themselves fit to be only leading a life of repeated birth and death, which is available to all the conditioned souls. Right? They're not even saying that I always take birth as a human being, in different bodily forms, which means they're thinking that even if we take birth as an animal, so that's the real humility. And then Prabhupada says that one of the reasons that the devotees may not ask for Vaikuntha is because they can create Vaikuntha, following the principle laid out by Krishna. Right? So in the Padma Puran, Krishna says that Naham Tisthami Vaikuntha Yogi Nam Hridayeshu va Tatra Tisthami Narada Yatra Gayanti Madbhakta. Nayam Tisthami Vaikuntha. I do not live in Vaikuntha, nor do I Yogi Nam Hridayeshu va, nor do I live in the hearts of the yogis. Tatra Tisthami Narada Yatra Gayanti Madbhakta. And where my devotees congregate and Yatra Gayanti, and they glorify me, that is where I reside. And where the Lord resides, that is Vaikuntha. So the Lord never leaves the company of his devotees, and the devotees do not care for anything else. They don't care for modes, they don't care for liberation, they don't care for Vaikuntha. All they care for is the association of the Lord. So the Lord has given this assurance. So the devotees, while they're manifesting their humility, they're also holding Krishna true to his promise. That we may not be able to come to you, we may not be that purified that we may come to you, but you are that merciful that you can come to us because you have said so. Right? So, so the devotees do not care for the modes since they're irrelevant to bhakti. Rather, they pray for a service which, as a byproduct, automatically transcends the modes. As Mahaprabhu says that Sthane Sthita Shruti Gatam Tanuvan Manobhi. This is a quote from Bhagavatam 10 Canto, from Prayers by Lord Brahma, 10 Canto, 14th chapter. Right? So when Mahaprabhu says, or Lord Brahma says that Sthane Sthiti, that be situated in your position, which means that according to your nature, you don't have to become a pure devotee. According to your nature, your swabhav, the modes that you have, you perform devotional service. So, in terms of the Pracheta's desire to, or lack of desire to terminate the cycle of birth and death, Mahaprabhu says, this is in the Shishtastakam, Janmani Janmanishware Bhaktad Bhaktir Ahitukita. Right, my dear Lord, that Janmani Janmani, life after life, may I be fixed in Bhaktir Ahitukitva, in your causeless devotional service. Same mood Mahaprabhu is expressing in the Shishtastakam that the Prachetas are expressing here, right? Before this, Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundaram, Kavitamba, Jagdish Kame, that I don't need this, I don't need that. All that I want is that Mam Janmani Janmaneshwari Bhakta Bhakti Ahitukita. So this purport, as I mentioned, it is showing both the humility and the intelligence of the devotees. So out of humility, they do not ask for liberation or ascension to the similar mode, to the spiritual world, or even transcending the material modes. Out of intelligence, they are asking for Vaishnava Sangha. Because in Vaishnava Sangha, there is Krishna Katha, in Krishna Katha, there is Bhakti. When all that is there, Krishna is there. So they have everything that they have not asked for. Okay, let's go to verse 34. Tulyam lavenapi na swargam na punarbhavam bhagvat sangasya matrayanam kim utashishaha.
Even a moment's association with a pure devotee cannot be compared to being transferred to heavenly planets or even merging into the Brahman effulgence in complete liberation. For living entities who are destined to give up the body and die, association with pure devotees is the highest benediction.
So this is a quoted verse for especially for devotees, Tulayam Lavena Pina Swargam Na Punarbhavam, which compares spiritual pursuits with other pursuits, especially between the pursuits of the karmas and the karmis and the jnanis. So transferred to the heavenly planets. This is what the karmis desire, right? They want to can't go to higher planets. And what do the jnanis desire? Apuna bhavam. Apuna bhavam means that merging into the Brahman effulgence. Right? So they are rejecting both these as insignificant compared to bhakti. How insignificant? They are saying that all this is easily obtained by Bhagavat Sangi Sangasya, by a moment's association with a pure devotee. Now, these endeavors in themselves for the karmis to get elevated to heavenly planets, or the jnanis to get Brahman liberation, takes many, many lifetimes. So many lifetimes of endeavor is insignificant compared to a moment's association with a devotee of the Lord. Bhagavad Sangi Sangasya. So Prabhupada in the purport says that Prabodhananda Saraswati has stated that Kaivalam Narakayate Tridasha Pur Alakasha Pushpayate. For a pure devotee, Kaivalya, which is merging into the Brahman, is no better than living in hell. Similarly, he considers the Tridasapur, which is going to the heavenly planets, another kind of phantasmagoria. Now, when the results are rejected, the implication is that the process is also rejected. And so for the devotees, since there is no difference between the process and the results, when they're accepting the process, they're accepting the result also. Right. So the difference that is also being brought forth here is that in the earlier part of the verse, the results of karma and gyan are rejected in favor of the process of bhakti. Okay? So it's a little bit of, one can say, apples to oranges, that the prachetas being transferred to the heavenly planet is the result of karma. Merging into the Brahman effulgence is the result of gyan. Right, and then associating with the pure devotees, that is bhakti, not the result of bhakti. That is bhakti itself. So Vishwanath Chakravarti explains this in the following way, that because the prachetas are rejecting the results, they're also rejecting the process, which means the process of karma and gyan are rejected in comparison to bhakti. And then he makes another point that there is no, for the devotees, there is no difference between the process and the result. So when they are saying that we would like to follow the process of bhakti, they're accepting the process as well as the result. And by nature, the devotees are not too much obsessed with the result. Right? They're simply deriving pleasure from the process. Right? And this we know because the process is non-different from the result in pure devotional service. Right? When you chant, the process of chanting, the result is the opportunity to chant more. The process of service, the result is do more service. So they're completely the same. So that's why we can consider the verse is actually fully balanced. Now, when the Prachetas are saying that all this is insignificant compared to Tulyam Lavenapi, right, to a moments association, does not mean that what they are saying that one who practices bhakti should only aspire for a moment's association with the devotee. Right? One may say that, okay, let me get one moment's association, and then according to this verse, I am all done. But they are essentially using the Kaimutya Nyaya, right? That if a moment's association is so potent, how much more so would be the happiness and bliss that is experienced in extended association. And the second point is that the nature of association is that it creates a desire for more association. So all that a devotee needs is a moment's association, and that itself will result in eternal need, eternal desire for association. So Prabhupada says that one should search out such pure devotees and remain with them. They will make one completely happy, even though living within the material world. This Krishna conscious movement is started for that purpose. And one of the aims is for to create centers where devotees can associate with one another. Prabhupada says that a person who is overly affected materially may take advantage of this moment and become intimately associated with it. In this way, the confused and frustrated inhabitants of the material world may find the highest happiness in association with devotees. Now, Prabhupada doesn't say that they are all pure devotees, but just like in pure devotees, one experiences complete bliss. We get a taste of that when associating with practicing devotees. So this indicates that the Prachetas are not asking for Sangha simply out of sentimental reasons. They have internalized the mood of the instructions given to them by Lord Shiva in the Rudra Gita. They have understood the essence of the instructions. And after having understood the essence, they have internalized it. They have developed personal conviction about it. So this should be the mood in which we recite our prayers. So we can begin first by repeating them mechanically. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjana. We can repeat them mechanically because this gives us access to the mercy that is bestowed by the original speaker. When these advanced personalities compose these prayers, they are for their own purification and also for the benefits of others. So the Bhagavatam is essentially a collection of so many prayers. So when one simply mechanically recites them, right? One gets mercy that this person is following in the footsteps or trying to follow in the footsteps. Eventually, the person needs to understand the mood of the prayers and internalize. And that's when one gets the access to the real mercy. So the Prachetas were initially instructed by Lord Shiva, right? So they memorized the prayers, and then for 10,000 years, they simply recited those prayers. But then in that course of time, we can see that they have understood and internalized the mood of the prayers, and now we see them acting upon it. Everything that they are saying is consistent with what the mood of Lord Shiva was when he gave them this Rudra Gita. When so most of you may be familiar with Gunagrihi Maharaj, He passed away a few years ago. So when he was in his final years, he was admitted in Mumbai in the Bhakti Vedanta hospital. And some devotees at that time, they visited him. These were the devotees who lived in the Govardhan eco village. And Maharaj at that time, he was appreciating them so much. So they were all young brahmacharis. And Maharaj was appreciating them so much. He said that, I wish I became a new devotee to taste the sweetness of this programs. So they were telling them about the different programs that they were saying. And the devotees were sharing that this was Maharaj genuinely displaying humility and eagerness. So he was at such an advanced stage of devotion. And what is he asking for? That I should be a part of the new Bhakta program. Why? Because there is this association with later on the brahmacharis go on their way, they become grahasthas, or they start running programs on their own. But at this point, there is this concentrated association from morning to evening and evening to morning. And Maharaj was genuinely, out of humility, hankering it. And the point they were making was that this had such a profound effect on them that they, for a very long time, they kept meditating and talking about it. So just a moment's association with Maharaj said we got a completely new perspective of ourselves, of how fortunate we are, and how we should make the most of this opportunity. Just a short conversation. He was in his final days, so his health was really poor, but just that few moments of association where they were sharing about how little bit of realization from a pure devotee, it touches the heart in such a deep manner. Okay, let's move to the next verse, 35. Yat tridayanti kathamristas Krishnaya prashamo yataha nirvairam yatra bhuteshu no dvego yatra kaschana.
Whenever pure topics of the transcendental world are discussed, the members of the audience forget all kinds of material hankerings, at least for the time being. Not only that, but they are no longer envious of one another, nor do they suffer from anxiety or fear.
So the Prachetas have been glorifying Vaishnava Sangha, and when they ask them, what is so great about Vaishnava Sangha? So in this verse, they describe three prominent effects of Vaishnava Sangha. So first is Trishnaya prashamo yataha. So Trishna means thirst or hankering. So there is no more material hankering. Biggest challenge in the material world is constant hankering for different material objects, whether it is for gross objects like wealth or house or property, or for subtle objects like fame and glory. But there is this constant Trishna. And when one is in the association of devotees, Trishnaya prashamoyata. That thirst, there is an end to it. Second, they say is nirvairyam yatra bhuteshu. So in addition to this Trishna, or because of this Trishna, the material world becomes filled with competition and envy. Right? So in the very first canto, first chapter, it is mentioned that the Bhagavatam is meant for Nirmat Saranam Satatam. Right? So the point is that the result of this Vaishnava Sangha is that it pacifies that sense of envy. And if you look at it the other way, to the extent that we are non-envious, we will seek out and appreciate Vaishnava Sangha. To that extent, we will appreciate Krishna Katha. So, for devotees who are very eager for Vaishnava Sangha and Krishna Katha, one can understand that through long practice of bhakti, they have become nirmat sarana, that they have become non-envious. So, by hearing Krishna Katha, our envy is reduced and our appreciation of Bhagavatam is increased. And by only by non-envious people, Bhagavatam is understood. Right? So it's a little bit of a spiral, circular, that in order to appreciate Bhagavatam, one has to be non-envious. And only by being non-envious, one can appreciate Bhagavatam. And the understanding is that both the appreciation of Bhagavatam and the reduction of envy, it happens in layers. So it's not like a switch being turned on or off, but as we gradually become non-envious, our appreciation for the Bhagavatam increases, and that in turn makes us even more non-envious, and that further increases our appreciation of the Bhagavatam. This is why we have this experience, not just Bhagavatam, but Bhagavad Gita, other Prabhupada's purports, that same verse, at different points of time we will read, we will get different realizations, because we are situated differently. The third effect of Vaishnava Sangha is no duge yatra kaschana, which is removal of fear and anxiety. So this is another way of saying is, so there is the place where there is no fear and anxiety, where there is no kuntha, that is Vaikuntha. So this is another way of saying is that the result of Vaishnava Sangha is that it transforms any place into spiritual world. Right? Same point we were talking about earlier. And Prabhupada again connects this back to ISKCON, saying that the Sankirtan movement started is for the purpose of creating Vaikuntha, the transcendental world that is without anxiety, even in this material world. The method is the propagation of Shravanam Kirtanam throughout the world. In the material world, everyone is envious of this fellow man, of his fellow men. Animalistic envy exists in human society as long as there is no performance of Sankirtan Yajna, the chanting of holy names. Okay, moving on to verse 36. Yatra narayana saksha Bhagavan nayasinam gatihi samstuyate satkathashu mukta sangha punaha punaha.
The Supreme Lord Narayan is present among the devotees who are engaged in hearing and chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Narayan is the ultimate goal of sannyasis, those in the renounced order of life. And Narayan is worshipped through this Sankirtan movement by those who are liberated from material contamination. Indeed, they recite the holy name again and again.
Okay. So now they're making these points that were initially discussed, that Vaishnava Sangha, Krishna Katha, creates Vaikuntha and invokes the presence of the Lord. Right? So initially we had said they're not asking for anything other than these two, because everything is contained in these two things, including, so one might say, why are you not asking for liberation? It is included in this. previous verse. Why are you not asking for association with the Lord? It is included in this. Why are you not asking for spiritual world? It is included in this. Right? So they are unfolding the potency of Krishna Katha and Vaishnava Sangha. So the verse begins with yatra, where. Right? So it points to the place described in the previous verse. That so in conjunction, one can understand that this is essentially continuing the point that we're building upon in the previous verse. So the previous verse spoke about the three results of Krishna Katha. This verse speaks about the fourth result, that wherever the topics of the Lord is discussed, the Lord is personally present. So the verse also talks about those who glorify the Lord in the association of devotees. So when it is said that the Supreme Lord is present among the devotees, and that the Lord is the ultimate goal of those who are in the renounced order, it does not imply that they become Narayan. So Srila Prabhupada comments on this, that there is a possibility of misinterpreting this verse to be of Mayavadi conception. Now, we don't have access to those purports, but the reason Prabhupada is talking is because I'm guessing there are certain Mayavadi philosophers who have basically used this verse to indicate that through this process, one actually becomes Narayan. So when it says the Supreme Lord is present among the devotees, some might say it means that the devotees become the Supreme Lord. Or when it is said that the Lord is the ultimate goal of those who are in the renounced order, it might be understood to say that those who are sannyasis, they ultimately become the Lord. So that's why Prabhupada in the purport, he points out the fallacy of this kind of thinking. So he says that the Mayavadi sannyasis are missing the real essence are missing the real presence of Narayan. This is because they falsely claim to be Narayan himself. According to customary etiquette of Mayavadi sannyasis, they address each other as Narayana. So they say Narayana Asmi, that you are Narayan. When other person says Narayana Asmi, so they call each other Narayan. Then Prabhupada says, to say that everyone is a temple of Narayan is correct, because the Lord is living in you, so you can say that you're a temple of Narayan. But to accept another human being as Narayan is a great offense. So instead of the person becoming Nirvaira means non-envious, when one is trying to become Narayan, then one becomes more envious. Why? Because they're becoming envious of the Supreme Lord. So when they say, I will become Narayan, there is already a Narayan. For them to become Narayan, they have to essentially remove that Narayan. So when they're presenting envy towards the Lord, that envy automatically spreads towards all living entities. Right? And that is why if one were to interpret this verse in that context, it is not going to result in Nirvaira. It is going to result in Savaira, that a person will be envious of everyone. So that interpretation of the verse is completely rejected. So Prabhupada further says that in the purport, that even to identify Narayan with demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiv is an offense, right? And then he quotes a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, that one who considers Lord Narayan on the level with great demigods like Brahma and Shiva is immediately listed amongst non-believers. Right? And then in one of the purports of C.C. Srila Prabhupada writes that the Mayavad philosophy confirms this. Danda grahana matrena naro narayana bhavet. Simply by accepting the danda of the order of sannyas, one is immediately transformed into Narayana. That is why Mayavadi sannyasis address one another by saying Om Namo Narayana. That's another way, Om Namo Narayana. So they are saying that I am Narayana and I am worshipping you who is Narayana. Then Prabhupada also criticizes those who develop artificial conceptions of Narayana. Right, so Prabhupada says that to accept another human being as Narayan is an offense. The conception of Daridra Narayan, poor Narayan, is an attempt to identify the poor with Narayan, and it is also a great offense. So this term Daridra Narayan, it was coined by Swami Vivekananda, and essentially his preaching was more in terms of being social service. So that was a mode at that time, that service to man is service to God. So as part of that, his point was that the more fallen the person is, the more elevated the service is, and ultimately Daridra is the most fallen. So Daridra is like Narayan. Same mode we see that this term Harijan was coined by Mahatma Gandhi to refer to the Dalits and the untouchables, right? And basically Harijan means one of two things. One is that Harijan means that they are also created by Hari, which is okay because yes, they are. But other also was that you should consider them like Hari, that these jana are like Hari, which is offensive. So regardless of what one's political, social, or philosophical inclinations are, one should never equate the jiva with Lord Vishnu. That is condemned. Okay. So I'll do one more verse, and after that we'll pause for any discussion. Tesham vicharatam pabdyam tirthanam pavanechaya Bhitasya kim narocheta tavakanam samagamaha.
Dear Lord, your personal associates, devotees, wander all over the world to purify even the holy places of pilgrimage. Is not such activity pleasing to those who are actually afraid of material existence?
So previous verse was a glorification of Vaishnava Sangha. Now Vaishnava Sangha means the coming together of devotees. So here the focus is now on devotees. So the Prachetas, they glorify the devotees. They are addressed as Tavakanam. Tavakanam means that they belong to the Lord. And a very high position, that the Lord considers themselves as his own, especially affectionate. So Tavakanam, they say. So what do these people do? They travel on their lotus feet with a desire to purify even the places of pilgrimage. Right? So the message is that the holiness of a holy place is because of the presence of the holy persons over there. Not because there is a water body over there, not because there is a tree over there, not because there is a mountain over there. The holiness is actually because there are devotees over there. Right? In Bhagavatam, it is criticized that if one goes to a holy place simply to take a bath, he is considered to be like an ass. Because the real reason one should go to the holy place is to seek the association of the devotees over there. So what's the benefit of the Vaishnava making the holy place holy? So the third line of the verse, it describes that it says that Bhitasya kim na rochete, that it allays the fear of those who are not holy. This is the big advantage. So those who are holy, those who are devotees, they are already beyond fear. But these tithas, they are special because the devotees come over here, and for whatever reasons, when those who are not devotees come here, they are the one who are constantly under the influence of various material conceptions and fear. And by the presence of these devotees, Bhitasya kimna rocheta, that fear of material existence becomes pacified. And we know the only way it can become pacified is when one is taking shelter of Krishna. In the Bhagavatam, same point is made by Nand Maharaj when he is welcoming Garg Muni. When Garg Muni comes, this is when he is doing, or he comes and he does the name giving ceremony of Krishna and Balaram, and Nand Muni, he glorifies Garg Muni. Nand Maharaj, Nanda Maharaj, he glorifies Garg Muni, that people like you, they only travel to the householders like us to give us freedom from fear. And if you remember, same point was made by Maharaj Yudhishthir when he was greeting Vidur in the 13th chapter, the first canto, when he says that devotees like your good self are holy places personified, because wherever you are, that place becomes a place of pilgrimage. So Srila Prabhupada writes that devotees like Narad travel all over the world to preach are called Ghoshkyanandi. Nand Muni is always traveling, wandering throughout the universe just to create different kinds of devotees. Nand Muni even made a hunter a devotee. He also made Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad devotees. Actually, all devotees are indebted to the great sage Narad, for he has wandered both in heaven and in hell. A devotee of the Lord is not afraid of hell. He goes to preach the glories of the Lord everywhere, even in hell, because there is no distinction between heaven and hell for a devotee. Okay, so I'll pause over here and see if you have any comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Very powerful statement in these few verses about devotee association, and again this moment association of devotee. We heard this so much, and now we see where it comes from the Prachatas. And just a comment, it's not a big question.
Yes, you're right, Prabhu. When we read it, we see some things that are so often repeated that they kind of become mechanical for us. But then we see that when great devotees are reiterating this point with so much of logic, then they get reinforced, and also we get a sense of the potency of it. So thank you, Prabhu, for
just another comment. One time I heard about, okay, there's another verse that when somebody gets disgusted with the material world, they want to get out of this material world, and then they maybe chant more, or do more devotional service or sacrifice to get out of this world. But this is not the goal here. The goal is not to get out. The goal is to stay and preach and give more holy name to other people.
Right. And the assurance that is also given is that you don't have to get out of the material world, because the spiritual world comes to you. So you're not losing anything. So it's not that you lose your right to go to the spiritual world, but for those who are Ghoshtanandis who are preaching, the spiritual world comes to them. That point has been established by the Prachetas.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's move on to verse 38. So I'm trying to finish the chapter this week. So this is, I think, 51 verses. I think later verses are a little lighter. These verses have longer purports. So verse 38. Vayam tu sakshat Bhagavan Bhavasya Priyasya Sakyu Krishna Sangamena Shudushchikatyasya Bhavasya Mrityo Bhikshtamam Twadya Gatim Gatahasma.
Dear Lord, by virtue of a moment's association with Lord Shiva, who is very dear to you and who is your most intimate friend, we are fortunate to attain you. You are the most expert physician, capable of treating the incurable disease of material existence. On account of our great fortune, we have been able to take shelter at your lotus feet.
So the philosophical point made by the Prachetas is reinforced by their own practical experience. Right? So they were saying that how a moment's association with a pure devotee can be so potent. Now they're giving their own example. That with the moment's association of Lord Shiva, what is the result? That now they're standing right in front of the Lord and speaking to him. Right? So the verse is glorifying, as we see the verse is glorifying three things. First, there's glorification of Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is described as Priyasya, very dear, and Sakyo. Sakyo means most intimate friend of Krishna. Right? So they're establishing the position of Krishna, that pure devotee of yours. Then they glorify the Lord. So they say that Bhishaktamam, that you're an expert physician capable of treating the incurable disease of material existence. Vishnu Chakravarti says that this Bhishaktamam phrase can also be applied to Lord Shiva. That a moment's association with Lord Shiva, who is your intimate devotee and who is an expert physician capable of treating the material distress. Srila Prabhupada applies it to the Lord, and he says it can be applied to Lord Shiva also. And the third point they make is that they're actually glorifying their own good fortune, which has allowed them to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Right? They say, Twadya Gatim Gatasma. Right? So without taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, one cannot attain relief from the clutches of Maya. Right? Harim vina na mritam taranti. That without the mercy of Lord Hari, one can never mritam taranti. One can never transcend the cycle of birth and death. Right? So by their own personal example, they're demonstrating the points they have been making. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada speaks a little bit more about the nature of Lord Shiva. So he says that those who approach him with material benedictions, he grants them. And because these benedictions are material, these so-called boons, it ultimately becomes the cause of their downfall. As in the case of, we see in the case of Ravana. However, when the Prachetas or the Gopis approach Lord Shiva for devotional service, he happily grants them, and that becomes the source of their liberation. Then Prabhupada also speaks about the relationship between Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu. He says that Lord Shiva is the supreme devotee of Lord Vishnu, Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu, the most exalted Vaishnavas. And those who are actually devotees of Lord Shiva, they follow the advice of Lord Shiva and take shelter of Lord Vishnu. And Prabhupada says that sometimes in the scriptures, Lord Shiva is described as being non-different from Lord Vishnu. And he said the reason is that because the two are so intimately connected, there is no difference in opinion. So just like sometimes devotees are addressed as Bhagwan, because the devotees are very intimately connected with the Lord. They are united in purpose. So it does not mean that the devotee becomes the Lord, but there is unity in desire. So for the same reason, Lord Shiva is described as non-different from the Lord, Because whatever the Lord desires, Lord Shiva desires exactly the same. But then one should understand that Ekale Ishvara Krishna Arasam Bhritya. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, that there is only one Lord, Ekala Ishvara Krishna, there is only one Lord, that is Krishna, or Sabhritya. All the others are his devotees or servants. Right? So this is the real fact. Prabhupada says, nowhere in the revealed scripture does Lord Shiva claim to be equal to Lord Vishnu. Very important point. Lord Shiva will always take the position of a devotee of Lord Vishnu. He says this notion is simply a creation of this notion that Shiva is Vishnu. It's simply a mental concoction of the so-called devotees of Lord Shiva. In Vaishnava Tantra, this is strictly forbidden. Yastu Narayanam Devam, that Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, and Lord Brahma are intimately connected as master and servants. Shiva Vrinchi Nutam. Vishnu is honored and offered obeisances by Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. To consider that they are all equal is a great offense. They are equal in the sense that Lord Vishnu is the personality of Godhead and all others are his eternal servants. Okay. Verses 39 and 40. Yannaha swadhitam guruva prasadita viprascha vradascha sadamnavritya aryanataha suhurdo bharatarascha sarvani bhutanya anasuyaeva yanna sutaptam tapaetadisha nirdandasam kalam adabaram apsu sarvam tadetan purashasya bhumno vrinimahete paritoshanaya.
Dear Lord, we have studied the Vedas, accepted a spiritual master, and offered respect to Brahmanas, advanced devotees, and aged personalities who are spiritually very advanced. We have offered our respects to them, and we have not been envious of any brother, friend, or anyone else. We have also undergone severe austerities within the water and have not taken food for a long time. All these spiritual assets of ours are simply offered for your satisfaction. We pray for this benediction only and nothing more.
So the Prachetas seem to be listing their list of accomplishments, right? So we studied the Vedas, accepted spiritual master, offered respect to Brahmanas, long list of achievements they're listing. It may appear that they are either boasting or trying to establish their qualification, right? Vishnu Chakravarti says that they're not doing either of the two things. What they're essentially saying is that, my Lord, we do not know how to please you. Therefore, whatever we have done, knowingly or unknowingly, may you be pleased with it. Right? So very similar to the mood like pujaris, when they finish their service, then they say they praise mantrinam kriyahinam bhaktihinam janardana yad pujitam maya de paripurnam tadastu maya yatam bhakti matena patram pushpam phalantu patram pushpam jalam toyam I forget the verses after that. But essentially the mood is that whatever knowingly or unknowingly that we have done, we have no real qualifications for being here in your presence talking to you. We may have done all these things, but we have no real understanding, no qualification. But because you are kind, you have taken these little things that we have done here and there, and you have accepted them with satisfaction. So now they are saying that it's not that in the future we will suddenly become very intelligent or very advanced. So we are saying that we will continue to be in this state because we are fallible. So there's what they say, we pray for this benediction only, that all these spiritual assets you may simply accept with satisfaction. Right? Another way to also understand this is that in all other forms of engagement, the person performs it with the desire to enjoy the results. Like the karmi wants heavenly planets, the jnani wants Brahman. But for devotees, there is no attachment to the fruit. Right? There's that word kayena vacha manasa indriyeva buddhyatmana prakrite svabhava karome yadya sakalam parasmai narayana yeti samarpayami. That even if what we have done, kayena vacha manasa indriyeva, right? Kayan by our body, vacha mind, vacha speech, manasa mind, indriyeva by our senses, buddhyatmana prakrite svabhava, based on our swabhav, our nature. Karome yadyat sakalam parasmi narayana yeti samarpayami. I have no desire to enjoy the results of these activities. May they be offered to you for your satisfaction. Right? So Srila Prabhupada writes an illuminating purport, and I summarized it as 4 points that he makes there. So first he says that this verse, it presents a perfect picture of Vedic civilization. That people training to become devotees should be respectful not only to the Lord, but also to those who are elderly in knowledge, or those Prabhupada said, those who are Aryans. So Arya means one who actually knows the Lord. So one should be respectful to them. So the word nirandhasam means without food. So eating voraciously and unnecessarily is not the business of Aryans. Rather, the eating process should be restricted as far as possible, only with the prescribed eatables. And those eatables should also be offered to the Lord before being enjoyed. Right? So this verse is being translated from a practical perspective. Like Prabhupada says that one should attempt to be in a position where one does with perfect understanding of the scriptures. Be an Aryan. And being an Aryan means acting in a certain way. And Prabhupada picks the food as an example. Okay, moving on to verse 41. Manuho swayambhu bhagavan bhavascha yenye tapogyan vishuddha sattva adrasata para apiyan mahemaha stuvanti atho tvatma samam grinemaha.
Dear Lord, even great yogis and mystics who are very much advanced by virtue of austerities and knowledge, and who have completely situated themselves in pure existence, as well as great personalities like Manu, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva cannot fully understand your glories and potencies. Nonetheless, they have offered their prayers according to their own capacities. In this way, we, although much lower than these personalities, also offer our prayers according to our own capability.
So the mood of genuine humility, it continues in this verse. The Prachetas have been demonstrating that they were talking about the gratitude to Lord Shiva. They were talking about their inadequacy in the previous verse. And whatever we may have done here and there, please accept that. Same mood continues in this verse. So they use great established personalities like Manu and Brahma and Shiva. So Manu is famous for his knowledge of karma. Brahma is famous for jnana. Shiva is famous for that. Shiva is the mystic yogi, right? So when they, such great personalities, they are not able to fully understand Krishna, what hope is for us? So they're simultaneously bringing forth the greatness of Krishna and their own inadequacy, and they're also glorifying these great personalities. Right? So when they say that Brahma cannot fully understand you, it's not a criticism for Brahma. Right? So they're saying that somebody as great as Brahma cannot understand you. So they're also glorifying devotees. Like it's said that Anantashesh is not able to enumerate the glories of the Lord, right? So far less elaborate. He does not elaborate, like he does not do a purport on the glories. Enumerating means he's simply listing out the glories. So Anantashesh, since the beginning of the creation, has been simply enumerating the glories of the Lord, and he's still not been able to complete that list. These great personalities like Manu and Brahma and Shiva, they are unable to, even though they are masters in karma, jnana and astan, they are not able to understand. So there's no hope for us. But they have offered prayers. We want to follow their footsteps and offer prayers. They are great personalities. We are lesser personalities. They have greater understanding. We have lesser understanding. But the lesson that we are learning is that understanding you completely is not a prerequisite to be able to pray to you. Because these great personalities have demonstrated that they don't understand you completely, yet they have prayed to you. So we are following in their footsteps, and according to our realization, we are rendering prayers. So this is also an important point for practicing devotees like us. That the Prachetas were, of course, much more advanced than us. But the point they're making is that everyone should pray to the Lord according to the level of understanding. So prayers rendered by the devotees, they generally fall in two categories. There are the standard prayers, and then there are the spontaneous prayers. So the standard prayers are those that are presented in the scriptures. They're composed by devotees like Narad Muni and Brahma and Shiva and the Prachetas. And the spontaneous prayers, they are composed by the devotees based on their own level of realization. I mean, they may not have meter, they may not have impeccable logic that is being developed, but they're expressing the level of realization. They are also potent. So devotees should do both. They should follow in the footsteps of the acharyas and recite. So the Prachetas had previously recited prayers that were given to them by Lord Shiva. Now they're reciting their own prayers. So similarly, we should also do the same. The glorification of the Lord with prayers is one of the 9 limbs of bhakti, right? Vandanam. Vandanam, that was the Akrura perfected that. So for making spiritual advancement, it is recommended to have a regimen of standard prayers that the devotee should recite on a regular basis. Whether it is Brahma Samhita, whether it is Gajendra Moksha, whether it is Narsingha Kavach, Narayan Kavach, so many prayers in the Bhagavatam and other places. So one should recite those prayers, which is essentially borrowing the realizations, and one should recite one's own prayers also. So Prabhupada writes that if one seriously accepts the lotus feet of the Lord, he is purified by the grace of the Lord and by the grace of the Lord's servant. This is confirmed by Sukadev Goswami, Yanya cha papa yad apashraya shuddhyanti tasmai Prabhu Vishnu nama. One who is brought under the lotus feet of the Lord by the endeavor of the Lord's servant, the spiritual master, is certainly immediately purified. However low-born he may be, he becomes eligible to return home back to Godhead. So there is a I had written a paper on prayers, and not really a paper. I think it's just it's consolidation of various, and now I'm going back many years, but when we were doing the 8th chapter of the first canto, we had a detailed discussion on the prayers. So quickly, prayers have either one or more of the following 4 elements: glorification of the Lord, humility of one's position, asking for benediction, and asking for forgiveness. And we see that the prayers by the Prachetas have all the 4 elements in it. They glorify the Lord. They are also, as we see now, they're humble about their own position. They're asking for benediction and also asking for forgiveness. Prabhupada writes that everyone in devotional service can offer essential prayers to the Lord. Everyone is situated in a relative position, and no one is perfect in glorifying the Lord. Right? So that should not be a hindrance. That I don't understand Krishna perfectly. Like even Lord Shiva does not understand Krishna perfectly. Even Lord Brahma does not understand. Yet they pray. So Prabhupada says that every one of us can offer praise with heart and soul as far as we can appreciate the Lord's glories. Right? So here Prabhupada is talking about spontaneous prayers. Right? And he quotes that the verse from Bhagavad Gita that Mami Partha Vyapashritya, that those who take shelter of me, they approve the supreme destination. So reciting praise is formally declaring one's desire to take shelter of the Lord. Okay. So we'll do one more verse, and then after that, that will bring us to the end of the prayers by Prachetas. Nama samaya suddhaya purushaya paraya cha vasudevaya sattvaya tubhyam bhagavate namaha.
Dear Lord, you have no enemies or friends. Therefore, you are equal to everyone. You cannot be contaminated by sinful activities, and your transcendental form is always beyond the material creation. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead because you remain everywhere within all existence. You are consequently known as Vasudeva. We offer you our respectful obeisances.
So this is the last verse in the prayer, which is essentially a summary. The points that are made in this verse have been previously made. So in this verse, it describes the 6 prominent qualities of the Lord. Right? So the Prachetas say that you are Vasudevaya. So Vasudevaya in this context is all pervasive. Prabhupada says that Vas means to live. Vasudevaya is the Lord who lives everywhere. And Prabhupada quotes Brahma Samhita Ekopasora Chetam Jagadanta Koti, that the Lord through his plenary portion. So this is Paramatma. He enters and lives everywhere. Parmanu Chantrastam, that even within the atoms he lives. That is why he is known as Vasudeva. So one understanding of Vasudeva is the Lord is Paramatma, and another understanding of Vasudeva is the son of Vasudeva. Then secondly, they say that Lord, you are Shuddhaya, that you are pure, you are never contaminated. And Prabhupada says that in Isupanishad is known as Apapavidhan, that not only can he not be contaminated, one who comes in touch with him, he becomes purified. So even though the Lord is in the material world, the deity is made of material objects, the holy name may look like a material sound, but because it's connected with the Lord, it's never contaminated. So the Prabhupada said he is therefore described as Shuddha, always free from contamination. Then third quality is that he is Samaya, that he is equal to everyone. Right? And Prabhupada quotes Samoham Sarvbhiteshu Name Dveshasti Na Priya, that the Lord has no friend and no envy, he is equal to everyone. Fourth quality is that he is Satvaya. Satvaya means that he is completely spiritual. So Prabhupada said that indicates that the Lord's form is not material. He is Sachitananda Vigraha. Fifth quality, Purushasya, means that he is the supreme person, and Paraya means that he is transcendental. Right? So quick summary of the prayers by the Prachetas, that they began the prayers by glorifying the Lord's quality in many ways. Then they glorified the Lord's interaction with the material creation. Then they glorified the Lord's mercy, specifically in manifesting as the Archa Vigraha. And also the Lord accompanying the Jiva as Paramatma. Right? These two things they glorify as the mercy of the Lord. The Prachetas then say that because the Lord is unlimited, the benediction they seek should also be unlimited. And they ask the benediction of Krishna Katha and Vaishnava Sangha. And because Krishna Katha is unlimited, the benediction is also unlimited. And the advantage of Vaishnava Sangha is that one becomes free of envy, fear, and hankering. And one experiences the direct presence of the Lord. Then the Prachetas glorify the devotees who wander the earth to give the mercy to others, just like Lord Shiva gave his mercy to them. And then they end the prayers by offering anything they may have done rightly or wrongly to the Lord. And end the prayer by summarizing the 6 prominent qualities of the Lord. Okay, so after this, what comes is what do the Prachetas do after the Lord departs? So we will finish this. We should be able to start the next chapter also, because I think we made good progress today. So there are only 9 verses left. So we should be able to finish that and start with the next chapter 31, which is the last chapter in the 4th canto. And it has 31 verses, but it's not a short chapter because it contains within it the instructions of Narad Muni, which have extensive purports. So I'll stop here and see if there's any discussion. Okay, if not, then we'll end here. Thank you so much. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo vachanapatitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anant Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Gaur Premanand. Hari,
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.